Hello, welcome back.
Hello. Welcome to the podcast one more time.
Nice to see everybody back. We are very appreciative you've tuned in.
Yes, thank you for listening to us. You make our lives worth living.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Finding a purpose in life makes life worth living.
It does make life worth living.
So, yeah.
Indeed. So how you been, Gabe?
Been pretty good.
You've
What was
been
the
on
last
a few
time?
adventures.
Yeah, what was the last time we recorded? Do you even know?
Like 2 weeks ago, I think.
No.
Right?
2 weeks ago I was gone. It had to have been almost a month
yeah,
ago.
it was almost a month ago. That is correct. What did we talk about last time? Last time we recorded.
Was it not masculinity?
Yeah, toxic masculinity. That's the last episode that came out. Yes.
I know we did 2 weeks back to back where we recorded it because we knew I was going to be gone.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
he
like
was
that.
gonna be gone. So what did you do when you were gone? Tell us. Tell us about your adventures.
I went to Coachella this year.
Coachella.
It's my third year going. I went with a couple of coworkers, friends, and stuff like that. It was an exceptional experience. And the thing is with Coachella is one of my big things that I like to tell people is that it is a place that encourages so much artistic and creative like expression that you go there and it doesn't really matter who you are, what you identify yourself with, you're gonna feel safe there, and that's what I really like. So like there has to be people with amazing outfits, but you also meet super interesting people that are like into certain concepts of art and work and all that stuff. That is super super cool. You just feel really good being there. Aside from anything else that makes you feel good. Right?
Aside from any other substances in my
Party favors, if you will.
yes.
But yeah, so it was really, really cool. I finally got to see the Marias live. That was awesome.
He literally cried the whole set.
No, I didn't actually.
Yes, he did. He's just hiding it.
No, I didn't cry. You can imagine why. But,
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. We saw crazy people. We saw people like Sarah Landry, like the queen of techno right now, right?
So it's kind of. Yeah,
I don't think any female DJs doing it better than her. in
Charlotte
techno.
DeWitt. She's
Shit.
she's pretty up there. But yeah, I mean they're very popular.
She was at. I think she was at Coachella like the year before or a couple years back. I think you told me to go. Oh, I think it was 2 years back because I think you told me to go check her out. I never did.
Yeah.
But,
She's also pretty fire. I like her.
I saw Sarah Landry on Friday. The Marias. I saw Lady Gaga, which I'm kind of a Lady Gaga fan now. She's very talented. Did a very good job with her set. Saturday, I saw people like. Saw a little bit of Travis Scott. I saw Green Day. That was super, super cool. Saw Charlie XCX. Saw Clairo. Saw T-Pain. He sang our anthem.
Our anthem?
Yeah, Bartender.
Bartender? Oh, he has a song?
Bartender. Yeah. You want to play it? Dude, as soon as I play the song, you'll know.
We're going to play it for the audience?
Yes. Let me put it up on my phone, actually. So, we saw T-Pain, and I have a bunch of videos.
Well, that seems very fun, seeing all the artists
cool.
that you like.
And then Sunday, we took it easy, kind of. We saw Biaba Doobie. We saw Mao P. Who else? I think that was the main thing. I saw Aliso. I saw Zed. That was pretty cool. Where is the bartender one? Can you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do know that song. She's a bartender.
So that's like our anthem. But it was fun, dude. Like, this was at 4 in the afternoon, 5:30 in the afternoon, packed. It
Yeah.
was super packed. Everybody was out there jamming and stuff. That's like super cool. And I always prefer to go weekend 2 over weekend 1 because weekend 1's a big influencer weekend. A lot of influencers go, and I don't really care to see people like that.
Cloud chasers. It's a cloud chasing weekend.
I don't care to see people like that at all. So I like to go and dance and be with other locals. Weekend 2 is considered the local weekend. When I was living down there, I was a local. I consider myself a local still, just because I'm still connected to the people down there and stuff. But it's way more fun. I was talking to some friends at work that came in, and we were talking, and they said nobody dances weekend 1.
Yeah,
And I was like, really?
everyone's
That's
just with their phones.
yeah.
Like
And I
this.
was like, that's crazy because I would kill myself. Like,
Yeah.
if I go to a
Yeah, I
festival,
mean, how could you
if I
not
go to
go
a
and-
festival that's that expensive, that's that world renowned, and nobody's dancing, I'd be upset.
Yeah, that is annoying. That's one of the things
But
I
that's
like.
how it is here in Fresno too. Nobody freaking dances at these raves. So.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about
I saw that at San Pancho.
EDC.
Nobody was dancing.
And like, well, yeah, here in Fresno not as much, but EDC, especially with techno, you get people moving. It has the ability to get people moving, and it's so fun to dance in a big crowd of people to lose your sense of
for Sarah
individuality.
Landry. Yeah, like
People
those
are moving
people were
and
out there
grooving.
busting a move and stuff
Yes.
like that. But good weekend. I didn't even spend that much at the festival. I think I told you I spent like $115,
Yeah, that's
which is crazy because in years past I spent like $600 up to upwards to $1,000 just on food and drinks and all merch and stuff like that. I was just not interested in any of that.
That's good. Yeah,
I ate plenty
you've
before
already
I went.
spent the money previously, so this time is like it's just another time.
So yeah, that was super super cool. I did kind of have like a huge Coachella hangover after though. When I got home, I was like, all like the fatigue from what I did close to 100,000 steps in those 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty common too for music festivals. Like you're standing on your feet, like on your feet.
Well, that's what my phone
2-3
tracked.
days in a row. Yeah.
There's obviously times where you just don't have your phone on you, but very exhausting festival. Got home Monday, and I got home with my dog, and I had to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, and then I got up, and I felt dizzy immediately. I was like, crap. So I needed to take a nap. So I tried taking a nap. I woke up, felt worse. Went to the gym, felt worse. Got some food after, felt worse. Oh my god! I woke up the next day. I had to go to work, and I was like, dude,
that
I
is
don't know if I
rough.
can
That
live
is
right now.
rough.
But yeah, I finally got better. Met some really cool people at Coachella. Made some really good friends. Made some good connections.
Good connections.
No, I'm just kidding. If you made my Coachella experience better, whether you're my friend, whether I met you there, thank you. I appreciate that. You know who you are, all of you.
You know who you are.
You all know who you are. Whether it's Emilio to Lorraine to to Ari to Aliana, all of you guys. Yeah, it was such a good time hanging out with you guys. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Fun stuff at Coachella. I was gonna say EDC. I don't know why.
EDC. Well, that's you next week.
Yeah, that's me next week.
Yeah, well, next episode, we'll get a debrief from this guy.
Yes.
So-
I'm going to EDC in Vegas for the first time. I had never been there before.
Who are you most excited to see?
Honestly, I don't think there's one single artist that I'm really, really excited to see.
So you're just going to go?
Well, not that I'm going to go.
Well,
I
you
mean,
have to look
there's
at the
a few DJs. Yeah, I looked up the lineup. There's a few DJs that I really want to see, but it depends. It depends. I know I'm gonna spend most of the time in the
Techno area?
Circle Grounds, yeah, in the Neon Gardens, because that's like techno, trance, it's all the stuff I like. But yeah,
You couldn't name one person that you wanted to see. You're excited to see.
not at the top of my head right now.
Oh.
I'll have to look. I haven't looked at the lineup in a while. They're
Let's
gonna
see
look
if
up
very
EDC
quickly-
Vegas.
Let's see if very quickly.
If I look at them, then I'm like, yeah, I could.
Oh
tell
my
you.
god! Is this what the lineup looks like? This is This is so visually unappealing.
There's Sarah Landry, Cascade for sure.
Oh, Cascade. He was at Coachella. I just didn't
Yeah.
get a chance to see him. Oh, come on. Mochak. Go see Mochak, dude. Go see Disco Dom by Dom Bresky.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
I've seen Dom
super
Bresky.
fun.
I've seen Dom
Eli
Bresky
Brown will be
before.
there. Dom Doll will be there. DJ
Yeah.
Snake. This is a pretty good
I don't really care for DJ Snake. He's too.
Charlotte DeWitt will be there on Saturday.
Yeah, I will for sure see.
Hugel
Charlotte
will be
DeWitt.
there on Saturday.
Yeah.
Millennium Slander. This is pretty good.
Yeah, the Martinez brothers is also. I like those.
Stein,
They got a pretty good
Eric
lineup.
Prides.
Yeah, Sudden Death, Funk Tribute for
Oh,
sure.
go see Horse Girl if you get the chance. I've heard she's
yeah.
coming.
We're already gonna see because some of the people I'm going with, George, he really likes Horse Girl. So
Martin Garrix. Wow.
yeah,
Mike
I don't really
Posner,
care.
Odd Mob.
I do know Funk Tribute is gonna be super fire. Yeah, they got
There's
a lot.
some good-
They
there's
got a
some
lot
good
of
ones on
artists. The way I see it though is that I don't know what time they're gonna play,
Yeah, they don't release
so
that.
I'm gonna have to choose.
Oh, it's
one
in
or
2
the
weeks.
Other. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not next week.
No, it's not this weekend. Yeah.
Oh, we may have to record next weekend then.
Yeah, they have.
It's gonna have to be next Friday. I'll be gone on Saturday.
You will be gone.
Or no, I'll be here on Friday on Saturday.
Space 92 for sure. I'm seeing Space 92. Really cool. Yeah, they have a lot. They have a lot of fun DJs.
That's insane, man.
I know. Their lineup is huge.
It's very
EDM.
appealing to like EDM and stuff like that. But what I like about Coachella is the fact that I can see someone like Green Day, an alternative rock band that started in the '90s and is still making music, and then also see DJs and stuff like that. But then also go see like Raven Lenae, who's like neo soul and like
you have a huge spectrum of things that you can see at Coachella. I like EDC because I really like the whole raving experience and the
Gorgon
outfits.
City is really cool. If you get the chance to see him, he's very
seen
cool.
Gorgon City.
Okay.
I've like listened to their songs for years. I normally tend to go for the DJs that I know are gonna play something completely different.
Oh, okay.
If you go to a lot of the mainstream DJs, I'm gonna be listening to the same
Stuff that you can
5-10
hear on
songs that they
Spotify.
have released for the last 10 years. You go to smaller DJs or specifically more techno DJs, and it's gonna be like a different set almost every time, and that makes it really unique. I like that.
Nice.
Yeah. Right. Are you ready to get into today's topic?
Yeah. What better? How fitting is it that on an episode where we're going to talk about ADHD, we went off on a tangent talking about festivals for like the last 10 minutes almost?
Yeah. I can't see, but yeah, it's been a while.
I think it's at 11 minutes right now. How fitting.
How fitting.
Yes. Today we're going to talk about ADHD. I wrote a paper about this. It actually is probably the best paper I've written to date. It got like 110 out of 100. Professor asked me if they could use it for like semesters to come. And I was like, of course. Yeah. Like, I was like, no problem. She's like, yeah, I just don't want you to feel like
I'm stealing
people
your
are,
work.
like stealing your work. I was like, well, what are you going to do with it? She's like, I'm just going to copy and paste it and put it on like Canvas.
Yeah. As a
like
sample.
A sample. And I was like, oh, all right. And I was like, do I get royalties? And she laughed.
Royalties.
But she gave me 10 points of extra credit, which pushed me over from like a B+ to an A-, which was great because that was awesome. But yeah, I wrote this paper in, what was it? I think last year, right around this time, end of April 2024. ADHD in youth was my topic. But the reason this is such a prevalent topic in our lives is because we both have ADHD. And some of the symptoms we exhibit are very similar. Some of our strengths that we have because of ADHD are extremely similar. If you look at us, we're both very outgoing and personable, but also we're very good at multitasking and like everything that we do, essentially, right? So
for the most part, yeah.
Let's dig into it. So one of the first points that I wrote was the prevalence of Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, or ADHD, and its diagnoses in the world has been noticeable, with a jump from approximately about 6% in 1997 to around 10% back in 2016. So its diagnoses have jumped. How credible these diagnoses can be is plausible, just because it can get misdiagnosed in children, because kids just don't stay still when they're young.
Yeah, they don't.
So they just slap that label on them, and what sucks is it just follows them for life.
Yeah.
Once you get diagnosed with something, it follows you for life. I think it takes like 3 evals and like 3 to like try to wipe that off.
There's a lot of people that get diagnosed incorrectly, but then there's also a lot of people that go undiagnosed their whole life. So
like us. I mean, I was never technically diagnosed, but
me neither.
Everybody that's ever met me knows.
I'm kind of glad I wasn't. I mean, I would not want to live a life on Adderall.
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, I don't. But I know I did. I was taking some medications in like 4th grade. That's when it was really, really bad. And one of the issues was that I just couldn't sit still. But also, like, I just wouldn't shut up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't shut up now. But, like, then, like, now I have an idea of, like, when I should stop talking. It's just an idea, you know?
Just a little bit, yeah.
But, like, then, like, as a 3rd and 4th grader, I would just, like, talk. And it could be anybody. And, like, I would just mess around, stuff like that, fidget and stuff. Like, if you look back at the episodes and pay attention, look at how much I'm, like, playing with my rings on my fingers and, like, moving something around, or, like, messing with my nose, messing with my hair. Those are all just little like habits that I've developed as like I guess a stimulus release.
Yeah, fidgeting habits.
Like a release to do something while I'm talking. So, but yeah, I was never diagnosed. We know that I have it because I have like every single symptom that's on here. And that's what we know, is that people that have ADHD, these symptoms can vary from person to person. The most common ones are like inability to stay on task or stay focused. And inability to stay still or stay in one spot. But yeah, I talked about some like therapy forms, which I don't really want to get into too much because it's really hard to like treat ADHD therapy. The best course of action typically is just treatment with medication. But yeah,
we might want to define ADHD for the people that don't.
Yes.
Know what it is. ADHD is characterized as a neurodevelopmental condition that has persistent patterns of inattention, hyperactivity, and old impulsivity. Mm-hmm. And this is mostly diagnosed in kids because that's when you see it the most. Like you said, kids already have trouble staying still and oftentimes focusing for long periods of time. So this is something that you see in most kids. It's just a thing until they actually learn how to devote their attention to one thing.
Yeah.
But then it tends to be even worse for kids with ADHD. It's also highly correlated to the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is sort of what manages what we call executive functions, like where you pay attention or talking, when you should stop talking, when you should do this, when it's not appropriate to do this. All of these things are managed by your prefrontal cortex. Mm-hmm. ADHD is highly correlated to the lack of impulse control that that your prefrontal cortex would otherwise give you.
So for the sake of this episode, we're going to refer to I'm glad you brought it up early on. EF, executive function. We're going to refer to anytime we talk about executive function as EF.
Yes.
Just to save our tongues because I'm stumbling on words all the time.
Executive function. Executive function.
All right, you don't have to flex on me that much. But yeah, it is normal for children to have trouble focusing or behaving at times, but when it persists throughout childhood and lingers into adulthood, then it can be classified as ADHD. Children with ADHD may daydream often, lose or forget things a lot, squirm and fidget, talk too much, make careless mistakes or unnecessary risks, have a hard time resisting temptation, have trouble taking turns, as well as having a difficult time getting along with others. These are all like ADHD symptoms, but these are all kind of just like growing pains too. These are all things that children have to learn as they're growing up.
Yes.
So that's why it falls back into like the I forgot what I was going to say. It falls back into like the misdiagnosis. Yeah. Sorry.
The interesting thing about
I saw the flag.
The interesting thing about diagnosis is that, for example, in the Central Valley, where there is a scarcity of mental professionals, getting an ADHD diagnosis is actually really hard.
It's like a pain in the butt. Yeah.
Yeah, because your school psychologist cannot diagnose ADHD. You have to go through a psychiatrist. So you basically have to make an appointment, bring the kid into the appointment, and then you won't be given an appointment for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you just don't find a psychiatrist that will do it.
Even in my small town where I grew up with my parents, it was very easy to get me in to go see a psychiatrist and start doing like behavior therapy. And I will say that like behavior therapy doesn't always work because it forces you as a child to have like this level of introspection on what you're doing, how it affects people around you, and what you can do to stop. So that's like very hard as a child.
Yeah, that's some like post-operational thought. Yeah, and as a kid,
so like as a kid, if you were a kid and you were able to like think, like I'm talking like 8 years old. I don't think I was able to do that like 8 to 10 years old. I don't know actually. No, I definitely wasn't.
Maybe at some point you sort of start developing a little bit of I don't know. Kids really operate a lot on like I do this because if I don't do it, I'll get punished, and like I will do this because It's more about punishment and reward.
Yes,
that's how kids tend to define morality until they learn that there's things beyond punishment and reward.
Yeah, so like even as a kid, I figured out like my mom's not gonna stop taking me to these therapies, so I'm gonna just talk to the therapist. We're just gonna talk about random stuff. And I remember talking to him about like, I think Play-Doh one time. But yeah, one of the many struggles that can come with being a youth diagnosed with ADHD is deficiencies that they may face in the classroom. Deficits in working memory as well as many forms of working math skills are some of the ones discussed in the following study by Gabe et al. It's a meta-analysis finished in 2024. Study did a really good job creating a high validity environment by amassing participants from many different backgrounds and by gathering a fair amount of boys and girls. Oh, sorry, meta-analysis. That's just like an analysis of like a lot of studies.
It's a study analysis of all the studies and analysis that have happened in order to get a concrete result.
It's just like compiling studies and putting it in one thing to, get better results. They also gathered participants who did not have ADHD. Math skills were tested by having participants take the Kaufman test of educational achievement. which consisted of 3 subcategories: math concept and applications, math computation, and math fluency. Participants were scored on 2 different ADHD symptom subscales, such as inattention, which had 9 different components, as well as hyperactivity, which also had 9 components. Results do tend to show that the children diagnosed with ADHD do exhibit more trouble with math skills in comparison to the students without. So that's one of the big issues, is that when you have to perform math as a child, there is like a train of functions that you have to do, whether it's in your head or on paper. So you can imagine, like, if these kids are easily distracted, or if these kids are like have trouble with linear thought with math, they're gonna struggle because maybe they lose their place when they're counting the one. Maybe they divide the wrong thing, or maybe they bring the wrong number. Maybe they're scribbling because they're thinking so fast that they misread their number. So there's so many different factors that can go into that.
Yeah,
and
in ADHD there is, because people with ADHD also, they pay attention. Like attention is something that all humans, most humans have the capacity to have. But what happens in ADHD compared to regular people is that there's 2 kinds of attention. There is voluntary attention and involuntary attention, right? Most people are really good at voluntary attention. Like whether I decide to read this book or pay attention to the label in this water bottle, or you know, countless examples of attention. But involuntary attention is the things that you're not necessarily attending to voluntarily, consciously, yet you do. ADHD kids have a high amount of involuntary attention. They can listen to like the noise of a water creek abroad, and then they can look at like all the colors of the leaves, and they can also look at the grass, which is dry, and the temperature and all these things. Like they can pay attention to all of those things at once, but it's really hard to just consciously pay attention to one thing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been at work and I'll be like, I don't know, pouring something into like a little glass, and then I'll hear like the 2 older ladies in front of me like say something about something, and then like a minute later I'll ask them about that specific thing, and it's like, how did you hear that?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't even know you were paying attention. It's like, I really wasn't, but I heard you out of like the corner of my mind. Yeah. I heard you, and then we start talking about that, and meanwhile, while I'm talking to them, I can see that this couple over here is starting to argue. You know, it's like I have to pay attention to that, because if that escalates, I have to do something about that. So kind of a superpower disguise. I know we've talked about it.
Yeah, it is. That's what the TED Talk. We were watching a TED Talk, parts of it, before starting this podcast, and he talked about voluntary and involuntary attention. Now, why is involuntary attention important? Like, why do some individuals have higher rates of involuntary attention? In the podcast, in the TED Talk, he mentions evolutionary biology. So, if we were hunters and gatherers, the people that have involuntary attention, they can pay attention to their surroundings for any noise that sounds strange, because there might be something there trying to eat you. But at the same time, you can spot animals all the way far away, or you can spot the reflection of water here, you can spot the clouds, all of these things that you can pay attention at once that aid your survival. So at some point, evolutionarily, ADHD, the ability to have involuntary attention to a lot of things at once, was highly valued.
Yeah, and I can totally see what you're saying, because like even right now, like I'm a little bit more tired, so I'm having trouble focusing on like reading what's in front of me, but I'm paying attention to him more than what I'm reading what's in front of me. Well, also like, you know, picking my fingers and stuff like that because they look dirty or whatever. So all these different variables that come into play.
Yeah. Another thing is that now we live in a society, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there has been a period in time in society that requires as much attention as we have to give nowadays.
And it's funny because everyone's attention span is way shorter than it was.
Yeah. Social media
TikTok has killed
detrimental for attention span.
Deleterious, yes.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, now you really need attention everywhere. Everything around you, whether it's publicity, marketing, the TV, the radio, whatever you listen to, it requires your attention.
Society's conditioning
constant
us.
like loops of attention here and there. Mm-hmm. So it is no wonder that nowadays it's really hard for people to go and sit in a classroom and pay attention to a 45-minute lecture. Yeah.
One of the points that can come to mind when we talk about ADHD is boys and men and all these ADHD habits that you can see in men. However, I mean, ADHD is still common in girls. Young girls can also be diagnosed and have similar tendencies as boys. Even suffering from being able to carry out EF, like planning things out, paying attention or memory recall. Some common examples that I've seen with like girls with ADHD is like lack of time management. So like not planning things out, lack of paying attention and stuff in class. I know a lot of girls like that I had met that have the ADHD. They just like, they're on TikTok constantly because like that's the only thing that like stimulates them. They can't like go on Instagram or they can't go on Facebook and read anymore. And I know typically a lot of girls that have ADHD too, they're very forgetful. Like they just can't remember anything to save their life. Just in my experience. I'm not saying that's how it is with everybody. Just in my experience.
No, but in general, forgetfulness is huge with ADHD because, again, sustained attention. In order for you to remember something, you have to put it in the back of your head and sustain attention to the fact that at some point you will need to do this. Yeah. With ADHD, you put that in the back of your head, and then you put 5 more things in the back of your head, and that one thing that you need to remember just goes away.
Yeah. Well, I've never struggled too much with forgetfulness because I have a good idea of like everything. I'm really good with dates. So like I've known that I have this event next Saturday for the last 6 weeks when I was reminded 6 weeks ago, and I remember it's the back of my head. But also, like, I knew you were doing EDC the weekend after, and I remembered all that. I've never struggled with that too much. Obviously, everybody's different that has ADHD.
I tend to suck at that with tasks. Like, especially with school tasks, I'm not just going to say, I need to, like, for example, there's homework for one day, and I'm like, okay, this is due on Wednesday. I'll just remember that it's due on Wednesday. I will most likely forget. That's why I have Canvas and everything that, like, reminds me when things
Canvas
are due.
Is clutch. Yeah.
And that's one of the things with a lot of people with ADHD, and is that forgetfulness. A really good trick there is write everything down. Set reminders for you. For most things you do, set reminders for you. Not only because it will remind you, but also once you get that being reminded of the task and you actually do it, you get a small sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
So it's just like pile up your accomplishments, and instead of trying to do this one big tasks, just sort of build a ladder and do it in small steps. Yeah. That's huge for ADHD.
I know that you can do this on Windows, but I believe you can download all of your first semester. You can download all of your stuff onto your like Apple Calendar.
Yeah.
On Canvas, and then now it's on your phone. Mm-hmm. So now you have every single assignment and stuff on your phone. I mean, that's not going to be a thing for me anymore because I'm finishing up this. semester. I'm essentially done. I have to like, I think I have like a mini exam due tomorrow, and then another final exam this next week. But yeah, then I'll be shipped off to grad school.
You will be shipped off, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So back to the girls with ADHD. They typically do have lower EF skills, which carried on later in life. These EF skills have not improved the older they get. But the best thing that you can really do is diagnosis at an early age, proper diagnosis at an early age, because it can at least help you catch the problem earlier and deal with it however you choose to deal with it. As we know, executive function skills are extremely important when it comes to decision making for young adults, especially when you have to learn how to choose yourself, who to surround yourself with, what your hobbies are going to be, and what direction you're going to start heading in life. The understanding that those who struggle with ADHD lack strong EF skills has been made apparent and can lead to many of these youth making wrong and illegal decisions due to the lack of consequential thought. There's evidence brought about by the study by Malone et al. 2010 that covered over 750 boys and girls who all had varying levels of ADHD, whether it was minimal symptoms, increasing, then decreasing, and lastly, decreasing, then increasing in symptoms. The results show that the group with decreasing, then increasing ADHD symptoms were the most likely to begin engaging in illegal drug use, even when compared to those in other groups with conduct problems. So this connection with ADHD and poor EF skills can now be connected to early illegal drug use in youth as well, which if you think about it, it does kind of make sense because now if these youth are aware of the fact that they have ADHD, they're going to start looking for other outlets that tie to like straighten them out, like ways to see if they can help. Like we all know Adderall is a big ADHD drug, which is not illegal, but like I think using it,
it's not over counter. Like
if using it if you're not prescribed is technically.
It is an amphetamine still.
Yeah. So another thing too that I learned about in this class actually is like the most severe ADHD patient. She worked at like a psych ward in Missouri or something like that. They actually microdose methamphetamine with these like really bad ADHD patients, and it actually helped them, which is crazy to think about. Such a hard, bad drug.
Well, I mean, the difference between an amphetamine and methamphetamine chemically is very. It's
just
not,
I
it's
think
not
meth
very
is
big.
just more potent.
Yeah,
right?
meth I think is a process of reduction from an amphetamine. Now, don't quote me on this. I'm not a chemistry major.
Yeah.
But it's very simple.
We're not
Like, you have an
psychiatrists.
amphetamine and you basically mess with it a little bit and it becomes methamphetamine.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the things is they like microdose these patients with meth, and it helped them in their daily lives so much. And these are like super severe patients where like they get so sucked. For example, like there's like they can't live their daily lives because they have no like concept of like how they need to structure their days on doing things. So like they'll wake up and then they'll eat and then they'll leave the house and then they haven't even showered. They haven't even walked their dog.
ADHD, just like any other, well, not any other, but a lot of other, let's say neurodevelopmental disorders, whatever you want to call it, it exists within a range. You know, there's a whole spectrum of ADHD.
Exactly.
You could be very high functioning, such as us here, or you can also be, you know, not high functioning at all. So yeah, there's big differences. Now, for the people that are high functioning, and this is something that I've thought about lately, is that ADHD is not all at a disadvantage. Like we talked about, you know, evolutionarily, how it was so useful at some point for the survival of us humans. But also nowadays, you can also use ADHD in your advantage. You can weaponize yourself, sort of. That's the way I call it. With me, for example, I've realized that it takes a higher amount of stimulus for me to actually focus on something. So I tend to put myself in situations that are highly stimulating. I realize this too while bartending, because most of the time where I'll make mistakes is not when I'm busy and slammed. It's when I have 2 drinks and I'm thinking about a million other things and I'm all of a sudden pouring the wrong alcohol into the glass, right? When I'm busy, it's not. When I'm busy, I can like retain 5 drink orders in my head and like organize everything and organize my flow. But when it's slow, I just can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about too many other things.
I am like, we both are bartenders, and I think we've talked about this before. We are both excellent bartenders. We do a really good job where we're at. Everybody tells us so. But we perform best when it's extremely busy, when we are like backed up against the wall.
When the level of stimulation.
When there's like 20, when there's 20
really
drinks when there's 20 tickets on our well and stuff like that, that's when we perform best. And I think it's just because like we're able to, like, it's so funny because that's like the executive function that you talk about. It's like we understand, like, the way I think of it is like I look at the ticket that I'm on, but I'm also thinking of the next ticket already. So as I'm making my drinks, I'm thinking of what I have to do for my next ticket as I'm doing this ticket, and then those are gone, and then I'm looking at the next ticket, and the order of operations for this ticket is already ingrained in my brain. While also paying attention to the dude in front of me who's asking for beer.
We're also paying attention to the servers that come up and say, "Hey, what is the red wine?" Yeah. Exactly.
I think that's specific to you.
Yeah, that is very specific to me. Like, what's the house red wine?
We only have one wine, so if they ask what red wine do we have, I say we have one red wine.
Yeah,
so.
no, it's just like
not like that hasn't happened, but
I'm here trying to figure out how to make a Scooby snack.
Gross.
While the server asks me like, "What is the house red? How do you ring in this?" I'm like, "Oh man, I don't have time for that."
Oh yeah, so. There are many different ways to combat ADHD, like we're starting to begin to talk about. One is prescribed medication, and it helps with behavior and performance in school, and that can be supported by evidence in this study by Fosco et al. This was done in 2021. Study observed 82 children during a week-long research camp, and these kids were all at different ranges of base cognitive abilities. The study consisted of a double-blind, randomized controlled, and placebo-controlled trial where certain children were given small doses of methylphenidate, a stimulant, and then several different tasks which they had already completed beforehand to assess a base score. The results showed that children on lower base cognition levels showed significant improvement after receiving the stimulant, with higher doses of the stimulant leading to greater levels of improvement. However, the children with better base cognition levels showed less improvement, and bigger doses did not prove to be effective like on the former students. So that just goes to show you,
there's only so much medicine can do.
Amphetamines, like stimulants, they do help you. And the way I try to, this is the way it was explained to me one time by a professor, is that essentially ADHD brains, there is a slot in your brain that is empty when you have ADHD that is typically not empty or not hollow if you don't have ADHD. And so what ends up happening is like thought processes go through here, but they can deviate right through this hole. That's what keeps you in like that linear train of thought. When you have a stimulant, what happens is it comes and this hole is filled, or like this chasm is like, I guess filled. Yeah. There's something is in that place. So now things can streamline and now you're much more effective at like performing these actions. Yeah. That's how it was explained to me. This is probably not the best.
It stimulates a certain part of your prefrontal cortex. Mm-hmm.
So it's probably not the best or
sustain a line.
Most perfect way to explain it. But this was a doctor that explained it to me. Yeah. So, I mean, I trust them. And it does make a lot of sense because when you have ADHD, when you have like, when you get on coffee or when you get on some sort of stimulant, it's caffeine, like all of a sudden you're able to like focus, and it's amazing sometimes.
Well, caffeine does increase focus
just in general
to a certain level. Yeah. It could be a double-edged sword because up to a certain amount of caffeine, your focus increases. After a certain amount of caffeine, when it's too much, your focus
you're jittery
because now you're jittery and anxious and all these things. Mm-hmm. So it is good up to a certain extent, but honestly, the best way to have proper focus, sleep.
Yeah.
If you sleep enough, and you've been sleeping enough, and you have a constant amount of sleep every night, you will see how your focus increases just by being properly rested. That's huge.
I mean, that's how I am right now. I'm a little tired.
Yeah.
I think it's a little noticeable. And,
well, like as a college student, most college students are sleep deprived. That's not even my guess. It's just it's a thing. Yeah. Studies prove where they ask college students constantly.
Do you get enough sleep?
No.
There's typically answers no.
Whether they cannot get enough sleep because they're too busy with homework or whether they were just partying their asses off the night before, still not enough sleep. And in general, like not just students, people in general in industrialized societies that live in cities, they don't usually get enough sleep.
One of this little study that I wrote a little blurb on says that although the topic of the paper is on youth, this study by Anastopoulos et al. In 2021 showed that cognitive behavioral therapy can be effective on college students with ADHD. That study consisted of CBT and group therapy sessions and individual sessions over the course of 2 semesters and done on over 250 students from 2 different universities. Students who underwent the treatment under the name Access, accessing campus connections and empowering student success. So, I guess a facade for this study. These students had significant improvements with their ADHD symptoms, including executive function, clinical change mechanisms, and better utilization of disability services. So it just goes to show you that although medications are like the leader in effectiveness, like there are CBT methods that can be very useful. So, and this is on like college students, so students who are a little bit more aware of their issues, their deficiencies, and all that. So,
how do you treat your ADHD? Like, what do you do to sort of either weaponize it or make it less sort of detrimental to your life?
So I think it's worse. It's at its worst when I have to like sit down and do something for a class.
Yeah. So academically, 100%.
I'm very lucky. The past few semesters, I don't have to sit down for very long amounts of time and do stuff. But like even when I have to do these mini exams, I'll literally just sit on the couch in my room. I'll be sitting down with my computer in my lap, just answering the questions. But every time I get a notification on my phone, it's like, oh, what's over there? Oh, what's over there? And you know what helps me? I'll just throw music on. I'll like any music, and I know that's a very common thing for people to do music while they're studying or whatever.
Yeah,
but some music is better than others. But like I'll throw music on, and it kind of helps. Like that background stimulation helps me to like focus, and then before I know it, 10 minutes has gone by, and I've done 30 questions.
So, when you're specifically studying for an exam, the best scenario would be quiet. Mm-hmm. And I know it's kind of hard because I also used to have music to study, but in that case, the best scenario is just quiet. But if you're just doing homework, where you actually need to be focused and there's like very little reading, you're just answering questions, then music definitely helps me. As long as the music has no lyrics. I choose music without lyrics because the lyrics and the words and my brain inside will start singing along with the lyrics of it. So no lyrics is the best condition for me.
Another way I typically do better also when I'm sitting down. If I'm in a position where I have to sit down or stand up, I'm more prone to fidget if I'm standing up or not stand still. I'm moving around a little bit here and there, and you can probably notice that I don't really sit still that much. But when I have to stand and do something, it's so much worse. I'll start like drifting around and walking. I won't ever go like too far. Like I know what I have to do, but I'll start like, switching my weight on my feet, kicking my feet or whatever, stretching my legs even though they don't need a stretch. Stretching my back and stuff, and it's like I'll have people ask me like, why are you moving around so much? And it's like, I don't know. Yeah. I just don't know.
For me, it's and this is like beyond ADHD, but oftentimes removing myself from my apartment, from where I live, and going to a different place is huge for focus.
Like coffee shops.
Because like a coffee shop, because in my place there's not just my phone vibrating. There's also I need to vacuum. Oh, Dory's here, my dog, or I don't know, I need to trim this plant, or like, oh, look at this, and like, oh, I end up washing dishes and doing a million other things besides doing homework. So if I remove myself from that specific place where I live, put myself out of it, sit in a couch in a coffee shop, I tend to be much better at focusing.
Do you do homework well, on your bed? Because no, I do pretty good job. I have
I find uncomfortable sitting on my bed doing homework because if I'm sitting, my back is going like this, so I have like terrible posture sitting on my bed, and it's painful.
I get you.
Yeah, I'd rather sit somewhere where I can sit more straight and actually do homework. That's huge.
I'm the same way. There's been times like where I'll start getting ready in the mornings. I'll take my dog out, we'll go walk, and then I come back, I'm like, okay, let's put these dishes away. Let me fill my water. Let me make food. And then I'll start moving. Yeah, and then vacuum or whatever. And then I'll start moving like the stuff by like the food, like my fruits are at. And I'm like, okay, this apple's it needs to be eaten today. It's gonna go bad. And then I'll grab the apple. I'll start washing it. I'll cut it up, and I'll get the peanut butter or whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm eating, and I haven't put the dishes away.
And then like 20 minutes later, you're like scrubbing your shower.
Yeah. It's gotten pretty bad. So like the worst I've ever seen it. I was living with this girl I dated for a little while, and we walked in. I took out the trash. We had just got groceries. I took out the trash because we had walked in with groceries. And then I went to my room, took off my like shoes or whatever. And then I started doing my laundry.
Yeah.
And then I guess she saw that I was doing my laundry. And she's like, okay, that's okay. Cause that's like his own thing. He's like still somewhat helping the environment. And then I went from doing the laundry to, I think I got a notification on my phone to then I was like messaging someone back. And then from there, I don't know what I was doing, but I remember she got mad at me. She was like, are you going to help with the groceries? I'm like, oh dude, I totally forgot. I totally forgot. Because it's, like you'll just follow this like delinear train of like things that you do, and it's so funny.
Yeah, it's just like
so do funny sometimes.
And then this one thing. So there's a main thing you have to do, right? You say, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, but before I do this, I'm gonna do this one thing, just so I can get to the main thing. Yeah. You're doing that secondary thing, and then this leads to third and fourth and fifth, and all of a sudden you're just on a completely different train of thought. Yeah. And diversions from the one thing you have to do. It's so common.
It's really funny from the outside perspective, but it can be so harmful if you don't know how to like catch yourself sometimes.
Yeah. So. Especially when there is actually something that you have to do, like academics and homework. It's something that you can't really put aside.
Yeah, homework, that's one of the biggest hurdles we've had during school. It's time management. That's like an issue that I know.
Yeah, time management is huge.
I've gotten a lot better at it. What's funny enough is having a second job helps a lot because it's like now I have smaller windows of time where I can do homework. Yeah. So it's like now I have to freaking do my homework right now. Mm-hmm. But like even when I had first started college, my first semester was very, very rough. I did not do very well because I had a job. It was online because of COVID, but I had a job, and then I was dating this girl. So you got to invest time into those things. And then all of a sudden, your school, which you never, you haven't been in college before, so you don't know how this works. All of a sudden, you're all behind on this stuff like that. But it's so funny because the next semester, I had just as much, if not more, going on. And all of a sudden, I think I finished that semester with like 1B. I had like 6 classes and I had 1B. Yeah, it was all A's. It was crazy. I remember I had gone to Disney World in May. And I was like, I have to take this exam right now. Like, it opens up. It was 6 p.m. over there, but it opened up at 3 here in the in California. So I remember sitting in a bathroom at like the Disney World market, just with my laptop on just my lap,
doing homework,
just doing this exam because I remember sitting down. It opened up, And I was like, okay, I'm going to be here for the next 20 minutes. And I got texts from people like, hey, where are you? Where are you? I'm like, I'm taking this exam. I'm not going to be done for another 10, 15 minutes. And then I met everybody at this restaurant. They're like, how would it go? I was like, I got like a 58 out of 60. They're like, really? How I would have not been able to focus with all this stuff going on. I'm like, that was fine. So
yeah, that usually helps.
That's one of the funniest examples.
Yeah,
of like,
I would want to see how, I don't know if you know about the concept of like working memory.
Yeah.
In like cognitive psychology.
We talked about that.
How there is, cognitive, like your working memory, it's kind of like a bench, right? Sort of like, or like a table, a working table. So like this one, right? So the more things you're working on, or the more things I put on the table, the less space there will be on the table, right? That's very similar to the way it works in our mind. The more stuff you put in your mind, the harder it's going to be for you to use your working memory in order to memorize things or like do certain tasks. But I wonder, how does that work with ADHD, where you're able to, maybe you have a slightly bigger working memory where you can fit more things within the table? I don't know. I wonder how that changes your working memory space. Well, having ADHD versus not ADHD. In the
study that we mentioned earlier, there is a deficit with those that have ADHD in working memory, like I've said, and deficit in working math skills.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way to like really conceptualize
it. Yeah, that's what I would want to see.
The concept of working memory, aside from like a workbench.
It's a cognitive ability to temporarily hold and manipulate information.
It's working memory, but it's like short-term working memory, right? That
they're the same essentially. That's one of the things that they've described. Like short-term memory is just
yes and no,
word.
Because I mean we talked about long-term working memory, which is like the due dates and stuff like that, but it's like the short-term working memory that I feel like we are more effective with, because it's like you can go from here to here to here very quickly and effectively, but then you forget what you were initially doing. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm gonna have to read about that, how ADHD impacts working memory.
ADHD part 2 coming soon.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I mean this is super cool because, like we were talking about, we're two different people who have different deficits in different areas.
So does everyone else,
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is specific to ADHD.
Yeah, but with ADHD, it is very different.
Yeah, that's all I have on my paper. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to discuss on ADHD. If you have anything else.
There's really not much else, not besides the research I'm gonna make now about this topic. But yeah, I mean, I think we've hit every single part of ADHD. Not every single part, because there's a lot of it, but from our own experiences.
One of the good things about ADHD is like that working memory thing is like, for example, like going to the festival. Beforehand, people didn't rely on me in these festival settings, but now they do, because they are they see how I'm able to like think of so many other people and other people's needs. So like we were at the Marias and I'm thinking about like I'm getting water, but I also know that the girl behind me just fell. So as I'm pulling out the wipes for her hand, I'm passing around my water, giving out water, and then I'm asking like, okay, who needs these electrolyte packets? Because I have these here, and then I have these like carbohydrate honey packets if you're feeling tired.
Yeah.
And then I'm asking people, do they need any painkillers and stuff like that? And now you're covering all of these people.
Yeah, I feel that with ADHD,
so
I find it a little harder to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, I don't
I don't feel overwhelmed by situations, whether it's at work.
I can get physically overwhelmed. So like I'm like.
Yeah, you're doing a lot. Yeah, but that's like beyond the capacity of your body. But it's not mentally.
Like a level of overwhelmed where you feel like you can't perform anymore. Like
yeah.
One of the things I love is I love a challenge, because it's like now it's like I'm able to rise to the occasion. To
really put yourself up to the standard.
I never met a challenge I couldn't conquer.
So far.
Sorry, that sounded narcissistic.
So far.
No, but yeah, I do like to be challenged. I do like that.
Yeah, that's really important about having what they call a learning mentality or growing mentality too.
Yeah, it's just as a person too. You should always love the challenge. You should always want to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably another podcast, but that's sort of the difference between a fixed and a growing mindset.
Yeah.
We both have growing mindsets. Yeah. And I feel that school also provides you with a working mindset. Sorry, a growing mindset. Because you're constantly challenged by new information, new topics, new people around you, their opinions, blah, blah, blah.
Especially in fields of
Humanities?
Like, innovation.
That too, yeah, for sure.
If you're getting into like business and stuff, I mean, I can't imagine that there's tons of innovation in business. Like if you're getting into like accounting or something like that, there's just like there's a rigidity to how things are, and you have to know that. So you go through 4 years of learning all that stuff, and now you're stuck in these beliefs and these ideologies of all these things.
Yeah,
and that's what you're gonna do for the next 20 years. So why does it matter for you to like be open to the idea of like all this other stuff? Nice.
Yeah, I dropped something.
It's okay.
No, completely boom.
I think Eros will
what
be
we
okay.
were talking about is completely gone from our minds.
Yeah.
That happens to me sometimes. I'll be so
One distraction.
even within this podcast, like I'm talking about something and have this really
it's gonna
clear
be
line of thought, and I look at something and I'm like,
It's gonna be so funny if you like actually go back and replay that, because as soon as it hit the ground, I stopped talking. Like,
yeah, and then that train of thought is gone. Yeah,
we are excellent examples of ADHD.
Yeah.
Poster boys, if you will.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's all I've got.
Yeah, it was a pretty good conversation about ADHD.
We flew through that, so yeah.
We did. Any MMS for you? Anything you've done?
Anything new besides Coachella? Let me see. Anything recent? Let me see if my notifications can draw any memories.
I got something I did recently.
Oh yes. After you.
While you look for that, I went on another solo hike, but this time, for the first time, I went snowshoeing. My girlfriend's mom had bought a pair of snowshoes from a garage sale for like $5, and they were nice. They were pretty new. So I just took the opportunity and I drove myself to Sequoia, and I started this hike that you just going up the whole way. But it was really nice. I got up to like 9,500 feet above sea level, so it's high up, not super high, like 14,000. But it's already enough at this time of the year to see it covered in snow. Yeah. It was beautiful. I met this German, I don't want to say he was German, but he's this European guy that was doing cross-country skiing. Oh, nice. So he had the huge backpack and the skis, one on each side. Super cool. Dang. But yeah, I made it up there, and I hadn't been to 9,500 feet in a while.
You're in California. Up there, and you have a European that meets a Colombian. How funny.
Yeah. And then I also met this guy from Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was also hiking. Yeah, so I was like, that's so cool.
That's the United States for you right there.
Yeah, well, that is also the national parks here in California. I mean, people come from all over the world just to see our Sierra Mountains. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was nice. I do remember at some point, because I was so high up there, and I was going up, so I was super winded, and then there's less oxygen up there. Yeah. So I was... gassed out. Yeah, at some point I was so tired that there was this couple trees, and there was snow under those trees, and I just laid down and took like a 30-minute nap. Damn. Yeah, I took a nap in the mountains. But yeah, it was nice. That's cool. It was a really long day.
Do you have any pictures of that?
I do. Yeah, I'll put a picture somewhere within the frame.
Nice.
You'll have to where I got. Yeah, that's called the Watchtower. The Watchtower Trail, because
that's one of the mountains that we saw on that peak that we went to?
Yeah, so we went to Topeka Falls, which is so there is the Watchtower right here, and then Topeka Falls and Topeka Valley is right here. Oh, okay. So yeah, we saw those rocky peaks. Dang. So yeah, I did that one. Yeah, you really nice hike.
That's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, I've done it during summer before, because you get to these like semi-alpine lakes where you can swim, get water. It's sort of like an overnight trip where you can also sleep there because they have a bathroom if you're backpacking. But yeah, really exciting.
Super cool. So my MMM for today will be the statement that... No, I don't even want to say that, but I was going to say Marvel is back. But I don't want to ride on that because I have no idea what they're going to do. But, I mean, obviously that I like Marvel and stuff like that because we talked about Iron Man last episode. But yes. I watched Thunderbolts on Thursday. Holy cow, that was like the first real good Marvel movie I've seen in probably like 3 years, which is sad because they've been making movies for like almost 2 decades. I mean, the first MCU film was in 2008, and I mean that's 3 years from now, or 2028 is 3 years from now. So watching Thunderbolts was so refreshing because it is like it's like a big plotted film, right? But like it still focuses on almost every character very, very well. Like the main character, which is like Yelena, and then it focuses on her and her traumas and past. And then it introduces this new character, but it doesn't just rush him to his like climax of like his I guess story, it like explores his background and his issues with like I knew because like obviously our background is psychology, but like it talks about how he has like these high highs and these low lows, and I'm like, that sounds like bipolar type 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's exactly what that is. And it talks about like how he gets so bad that he blacks out during his lows, and I was like, that is literally like depression and stuff like that. And he has like these manic episodes where he goes crazy. I was like, it's super cool, and it explores all these other characters and their specific nuances. Like there's U.S. agent and how he talks about like he was kind of like this super narcissist, and he talks about how he's like tries to be like this perfect golden boy because he was like crowned Captain America. He no longer was, but he has like he's like this very violent, damaged individual. He like caused his wife and kid to move out and stuff like that. So like super crazy.
Rough life.
Talks about all that. Great film. Cinematography was pretty good. The pacing was a little weird. Like I struggled to find exactly whether it was like days, weeks, or months that it occurred through, because even if it was days, like how the hell did they travel that fast? It's not really feasible.
Yeah.
But still, great film. I highly recommend to watch it. It scored really well on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, that's the first film where I saw like a lot of people say like, yes, really good Marvel movie. Go watch it if you can. And I just impulsively bought a ticket, and I don't regret it.
There you go.
So, yeah.
There you go.
Went by myself. Bought some Wets Pretz. Was snacking on some pretzels while in the theater. They didn't even care that I brought it in.
Nah, they don't.
I'm starting to think that stuff is a myth.
Yeah.
I had it in my hand as I was scanning my thing. They didn't say anything.
It's just a little pretzel, you know. No.
They're like, let's not ruin this poor lonely boy's night.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I was like, nice. But yeah. Watch Thunderbolts if you can.
Yes.
But aside from that is all we have for you guys today. We have.
Thank you guys for tuning in one more time to
As always, yeah. Thank
podcast.
You. Look forward to the next episode. We have a surprise for you guys next episode. You'll just have to wait and see.
You will.
Eros will also have to wait and see. Thank you, Eros, for letting us be here. Thank you, Eros' mom. Shout out to
Thank you, Eritos.
Saw our producer's parents at my work yesterday, and they are so nice. So awesome. So thankful for letting us.
No wonder why Eritos is such a sweet little boy.
Such a good boy. Such a sweet boy.
All right, guys. Let's stop. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.